Okay, this is the model replication of the 1951 Gold Cup fleet that was first run here in Seattle. I've displayed the boats in the order that they actually won the race. I commissioned him to build them one at a time, starting with the winner of the 1951 Gold Cup race, because at that time that was the first Gold Cup that we hosted here in the city of Seattle. The Slow Motion 5 was the winner of the race that year. It was her first year of competition, and she was driven by Lou Fagel and owned by Stan Sayers. Jack Schaefer came west with Forrest Dodge's G31, the Hornet, which came back to Seattle years later, racing under the name Wahhapen 2. Perhaps the most beautiful boat in the whole regatta was the Miss Pepsi. We knew it as the real Darth Vader. But if you look closely underneath the cowl here, you can see the exquisite detail. These are twin Allison engines driving a single propeller in the back. The Quicksilver is one of the most unique boats in the whole fleet because it is the one that carried the two drivers that were killed here in Seattle that year. It was built in steps, much like the Miss Pepsi was, and that caused it to porpoise an awful lot. It bounced off the ways. I was there in 1951. I was at the Gold Cup. I was standing right behind the barge when the Quicksilver spun out of control and killed the driver and the riding mechanic. Each one of these boats took approximately 4 months to build. Sometimes we went as long as a year before I would get the next model. So these have been in production well over 15 years. Everything on here is handcrafted. There are no decals. Everything is original paint. The wood is the same type of wood that was used on the original model. To my knowledge, there is no duplicate anywhere. He has signed the transom of each one of the boats as an original, and to our knowledge, they are S-scaled, drawn right to a blueprint, and as well detailed as he could possibly make them.
Well, that was Bob Flagel. He's got a fabulous collection of those model boats. And Mike Fitzsimmons, you have many more talents than I even assumed, one of which is you're going to call those old boats you used to watch as a kid. Here is Mike Fitzsimmons and hydro great Tom Deeth with our vintage hydroplanes presented by Pemco.
Thank you very much. Yes, Tom Deeth, three-time Gold Cup champion. U.S. Miss Budweiser. He certainly has known these boats. His dad, Al, raced in the era when these boats were quite popular. And they're coming down to make the start of the Pemco Classic, Tom.
This is the Pemco Classic. We've got Billy Shoemaker on the inside with Dave Williams in the nitrogen right next to him. The Miss Burien U4 is on the outside. Budweiser is coming up from the rear.
This is the 1967 Budweiser, the boat that Mike Thomas drove to a victory in Kelowna, British Columbia. As they come down on the right-hand side of your screen there, that's the 1958 national champion Miss Budweiser, driven by the fellow who 10 years later was a national champion, the Gold Cup winner in the checkerboard, Miss Bardall.
Oh, yeah, Billy looks forward to this every year. It's just a great time. These APBA vintage hydroplanes love coming to Seattle and competing in the Pemco Classic. We want to certainly thank them, too, because they sponsor this event every year. Pemco's a great company.
They certainly are. Washington Company, John Osterberg and the group out there have done a wonderful job helping the Hydroplane and Raceboat Museum, where these vintage hydroplanes are housed, and they were all restored lovingly. And look at this. We got ourselves a duel. Here comes Dave Williams on the outside in Nitrogen 2, which starred as Miss Madison in the motion picture soon to be released called Madison.
That's right. And you know, the Nitrogen 2 is the boat that Ronnie Musson drove when Ole Bardal saw his talents and then tapped him on the shoulder to drive that Miss Bardal that he won 3 Gold Cups with.
That's absolutely correct. Sam DuPont giving this to the city of Madison, Indiana, as the second of the Miss Madisons. His first Nitrogen was the first Miss Madison.
Right. Buddy Byers, of course, who was the sports commissioner at one time, drove that boat along with Marion Cooper out of Louisville, Kentucky. But Dave Williams is doing a beautiful job right now, running side by side with Billy Shoemaker, who's on the inside of the Miss Bardall. Boy, if that doesn't get the blood pumping, nothing will. Listen to that sound.
Gotta love it. Allison, 1,710 cubic inches.
Jumping around a little bit. The water is a little bit choppy, as Chip alluded to, but you notice these boats don't create the huge wakes in the corner that the skid fins from the modern boats create, which caused Mike Weber's problem in that upper corner. We've got Billy Shoemaker. These skid fins are on the inside of these hulls. They still carried a lot of straightaway speed, but they had to back off and slow down.
And they were very shallow. They only hung down about 6 or 7 inches at the most. They weren't these great big blades, so they didn't track so much water. Okay, here looking at the 58 national champion. Jack Regis drove this boat in Coeur d'Alene in 1959, had a terrible crash, but the boat was unconscious for a number of weeks in the Spokane Spokane, Washington hospital. But this boat was also driven by Mira Slovak, and he won the 1958 National High Points.
That's right, and we've got Dave Williams again pulling up on the outside, making this a great race. Look at the nice tight corner that Billy Schumacher's making. You can see the water coming out. There's plenty of water cooling these big Allison and Merlin aircraft engines. These boats are exciting to drive. I was very privileged to be able to run both Allison Merlins and turbines in my career, and I'll tell you what, this is where the fun is.
And you drove up front of the motor as well as behind the motor when you drove the big V12s, and then later, of course, the turbines up ahead of the engine. All right, on the inside and now close up, here's the Miss Bardall, and you can see these are round prow, what we call shovel nose boats. These were before the pickle fork concept.
That's right, and this is the last lap. We're on the white flag lap. We got Billy Schumacher on the inside. This race is getting really exciting. We've got basically the boat that Ron Musson drove and cut his teeth in, pulling up alongside for a neck-and-neck duel for the finish.
All right, and last year the defending champion was the Bardall, this particular boat, which was launched last year, and now we got ourselves a duel. David Williams, of course, the director of the Hydroplane and Raceboat Museum, and not a bad shoe in his own right, drove this particular boat over laps in the making of the movie Madison.
Oh, that's correct. And you notice the black smoke that was puffing out of the Miss Bardall there. Of course, Evelyn Manchester Bardall runs that company today. Billy looking over his shoulder to see where Dave Williams is at. He's very competitive still today. He wants to win this race. You know, Billy is going to be getting married next Sunday.
That's right. Not strapped in the race boat, by the way. None of them were in this particular era of hydroplane racing. No 5-star harnesses like they use today. All right, on the outside now, David Williams making his move on the outside in nitrogen 2. You see Billy, but watch now as David is in the rooster tail. He's going to try to move that nitrogen 2 into position. He's pulling up alongside.
He's pulling up alongside. They're neck and neck. Look at the black smoke. He's on the nitrous. Both of them blowing black smoke. They're accelerating back and forth. The tails are popped. They're heading for that finish line. We're looking for an exciting finish.
All right, they're virtually side by side as they come down the front straightaway. Is David going to be able to pull it off? Doesn't look like it. Looks like Bardall will repeat.
There
and it is the Bardall that crossed the line.
Crosses the line first.
Almost a photo finish in third place up in the north turn. It's the Miss Burien. There's your second place boat, the nitrogen 2.
Well, that's two professionals out there driving those boats just the way that we like to see them run. Rooster tails in the air, black smoke puffing coming off that corner. Boy, that was an exciting way to see the
Look at these guys muscle these, Tom. I mean, it took a tremendous amount of upper body strength to be able to muscle these around a race course.
Give these guys a wave, ladies and gentlemen, because what they're going to do is they're going to do a parade lap up the backstretch. There's Ken Muscatel, or
that's Mark Evans.
Mark Evans, excuse me, Mark Evans driving the Hawaii Kai. Ken was supposed to drive the boat, but because he's commitments racing today, he let Mark Evans drive, which is a great sportsman move. They're going up by the log boom now, and they're waving to the crowd. Give them a wave back.
Fabulous unlimited hydroplanes of the golden era. The Miss Bardall, this boat spent years in the Goodwill down on Dearborn here in Seattle. It was in very good shape when they did the restoration, but still a lot of work. There's Mark Evans.
There's Mark Evans.
Ever the showman coming by in the Hawaii Kai 3. Jack Regas drove this boat, of course, the 1958 Gold Cup Championship right here on Lake Washington.
Right, he's giving everybody a salute. There's Dave Williams in the nitrogen 2. And, you know, one thing I want to say is Billy Schumacher was the first native-born Seattle guy to kick the door down and make success and have a wonderful career in unlimited racing. All these other unlimited drivers that are running today, they owe a lot to this guy right here, Billy Schumacher, driving the Bardall, because all the drivers came from the East.
That's right.
And Billy Schumacher was a native Seattleite. He had a tremendous career running limited.
Started out at age 18 in the Unlimiteds in the Miss Tool crib way back when, 1961.
That's right. And driving the checkerboard Bardall, won 2 championships in a row, 2 Gold Cups. He was basically doing a lot of the testing for Ronnie Musson when they had the Green Dragon that won 3 Gold Cups in a row. So the Bardall family, real strong here in the Seattle area. And Jesus, that's a beautiful sight.
Isn't that gorgeous? It absolutely is. This was a typical example of a Ted Jones 3-point built 1960. The Miss Burien was. Chuck Hickling, late Chuck Hickling, was the throttle jockey on this particular boat. It's now from 1710. This boat, the Miss Burien, is now driven by Peter Orton. And, of course, the Sudden folks are part of the sponsorship of it, and the Miss Budweiser. And if you get a chance to see it, gorgeous deck on the Miss Budweiser. So the vintage boats, there's the Bud. The Pemco Classic is completed. In the Bud back to the pit area, and we'll be right back to the shores of Lake Washington for more action.
The Pemco Classic at Seafair, presented for Seafair by Pemco Insurance. Pemco, safe drivers get it. This portion of the GM Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Pontiac, driving excitement.
Well, we've gotten no less crowded here along the shores of Lake Washington. The General Motors Cup at Seafair. You've seen the vintage boats run, courtesy of PEMCO. Now you're going to see the provisional heat coming up in just a few minutes. Watch your step there, young man. Meantime, we're lucky to have Chip Hanauer with us, and we've said that all along. It's just great having him up here in the tower with us. But you know, since he quit driving hydroplanes, he's apparently had a number of job offers. Why, take a look.
Well, it's great to be back in Tri-Cities, and although I'm not driving anymore, I still feel like I'm contributing and still feel like I'm really part of the event. What do you want? We've got chocolate, vanilla, well, it's right here. All right, thanks again. You know, I used to be somebody. Did you know that? Yeah. I did.
And overall, the winning hydroplane driver of all time, how was his service?
It actually was very well.
Do you think he has a future in this business?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people thought that racing boats in circles for a lifetime really wouldn't train you to do anything else, but I found out that there's a lot of opportunity outside of the racetrack for going around in circles. Everything's going to work out fine. How much for the old driver?
Each of each side.
You know, I thought I had it out of my system. I thought there, you know, the thrills were important to me, but it's still in my blood.
All right, up on 2.
Wow, what a look for Chip. I like that. You had a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, life's looking up for me, isn't it?
It really is. And now you've come from cotton candy to being up here on the tower with us.
And I'm trying to decide which to go, which way to go. Yeah, broadcasting or carnival food.
I'd take the carny life.
I heard he doesn't make change all that well, though.
I heard they're one and the same life, but we'll see.
That's actually true. We've got a provisional race ahead for you, and then we are going to have some kind of final here at the General Motors Cup at Seafair. If you're just joining us, oh, do we have the rest of the afternoon for you. Stay tuned. You're watching KIRO 7. Well, there's more boat racing, but this is not the final. This is not the championship here for the General Motors Cup. This is the provisional. And, Chip, these are the boats that haven't qualified for the final according to points scored today, correct?
That's correct. And, you know, when I made it to the provisional, I almost didn't want to win it because if the guy that wins this heat now, he's going to be the trailer boat. And believe me, being behind 6 frontline race boats with all those weights and rooster tails, he's no treat.
One of the things, though, that's interesting is just a week ago, Michael, in Tri-Cities, Mike Hansen had to run in the provisional, ended up finishing 4th on the day. So you can get some points out of this as we are looking at a picture of the Trend West boat, I believe. Is that Scotty Pierce, who's just sitting out there in the water right now?
That's correct. He's not going anywhere. You know, if Mike Hansen is in this provisional, when it comes to provisionals, Mike Hansen has had the greatest luck in the history of provisionals. He's the only guy that's ever won from the trailer position, and that was in 1993 down in San Diego. A lot of things had to happen to the other 6 boats, but sometimes a lot of things do.
You know what concerns me about Scott Pierce is no heat coming out of the engine.
Oh, that's not a good sign. We'll find out what's going on with Scotty's boat and the rest of the provisional coming up as we continue.
The provisional heat of the General Motors Cup is presented for Seafair by GMC. We are professional grade.
Well, we're back, and you see the boats that had just moments ago pulled away from the dock here. Well, now they are returning. The Oberto is back. The Silver Nugget Casino boat is back in. And they all seem to be returning for one very simple reason. As the boats were heading out of the pits, we understand, Scotty Pierce, by the way, is standing on his Trend West boat now. The fire's out. He can't get it started. They're going to have to get a tow back, but we understand that there was a swimmer in the water somewhere near the course, and so that's a credit to the course management out here. Somebody saw that, instantly said, shut him down. We don't want any boats out here to take a chance on hurting someone. Now we're going to track that story down. Meantime, it's going to take us a while to get Scotty Pierce off the course as he stands out by the first corner, just waiting for the tow in.
You know, the most frightening moment in my life racing hydroplanes was passing a guy ahead to my left side. So I was between the shore and the buoy line, and I went by a guy's head, and it absolutely scared me to death.
That was at Madison, wasn't it?
San Diego.
San Diego. Well, we had a woman who jumped off a bridge at Madison also. It was an apparent suicide attempt that was unsuccessful because she was swimming, and we had a start made, and they went past her also here just a few years ago. No one saw her leave the bridge.
Mike, you want to hear what happened? Now we get confirmation. This is the gentleman in the water. You know what happened? We have part of the air show here that has a terrific Coast Guard demonstration of picking up a diver behind enemy lines. It's part of the great air show. Well, somehow or another, the timing was thrown off somewhere. This diver was dropped and went into the water as the boats were proceeding out of the pits. A scary moment there. Now they have retrieved him, but he is a member of the armed forces. Happily, that's been taken care of, but a bit of a scary moment there. A true real-life rescue, as a matter of fact, getting him out of the water now. So the boats came back in. Now, I guess we wait for a couple of moments while they prepare the boats again for racing, but let's go down to the pits and find out what Greg England has.
Well, I'm here with Mike Weber, obviously disappointed with the way that last race went. You wanted to be aggressive, right?
Well, we had to, because with a third and a fourth, we were really behind the 8 ball to make the final. We knew we had to run first or second, and we broke out front. I did everything I could to hold Dave off. Didn't know where Greg Hopp was, and it's just one of those things. We went in the turn really hard. Dave, you know, he squeezed in a little bit, and Finn unhooked and saw that big rooster tail coming and said, oh, man, this isn't going to be good. And it's disappointing. These guys work so hard, and to have it go that way. Good news is we got a real good boat ride for San Diego. We'll look forward to that, get the boat back together. We tore it up a little bit, but yeah, it's disappointing.
And the tough part is you're not able to go out there in the provisional right now and maybe get a trailer spot in that final heat and still have 2 boats in there for USA Racing.
Well, the toughest part is I think with that second, we'd have been in the final without even going through the Constellation. But yeah, that's the first thing we said is try and get ready for the Consi, and they looked at everything, and when it ripped the cowling off, it pulled all the supports out of the deck and stuff. And it's just no way to do it and do it right. So we'll go home and get ready for San Diego. And
first, we'll turn the attention to your brother Mark and hope he does well in the final.
Well, he looked great in 3A, and that was I guess that was our highlight of the day, and hopefully he can get a good lane and get a good start and do something good in the final.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Guys, a disappointing ending for Mike Weber.
And what might be a disappointing end of the day for the Trend West boat and Scott Pierce as he sits astride the cockpit there and he's being towed in. Chip, as you said, you've been through this before, but if this is just a small problem, they can probably get it restarted once they get back to the pits?
In my guess, it is a small problem. What happened is he probably had his radio guy say, shut down, there's a problem, so he shut the thing down. And sometimes it took all the battery to get it started the first time. There might not be battery. So my guess would be they'll probably be able to turn this thing around and have it ready for the provisional.
It really is interesting to see Scotty Pierce sitting atop that boat, because just a year ago and for a couple of years he was sitting up here with us, and I just for one never thought he would get back into a boat again. But I guess it's something that until you're the only person who knows when it's really out of your system, I guess.
Yeah, and it takes a while. You know, I mean, now there's no question I don't ever want to be in a race boat again. And the first time I thought I had it, you know, out of my system, but the competitive edge, you know, all about that makes you want to do it some more.
Well, I knew it was over by the time I was third year in the league, and I played another 3. So that was
actually, Steve, we all did.
Say, gentlemen, I just checked with the officials, and Mr. Pierce might possibly get a reprieve here, as there was a legal stoppage, and he still had the opportunity to start and get on plane by a 1-minute gun. So legally, if he can fix whatever it is, he can still start this provision. They haven't given me an official time for the restart yet, but they're going to let everybody check their equipment over, and then they will restart the provisional, as the points are very, very important for some of these guys, and they all want to run if they can. So it looks like if whatever ails Scott Pierce's boat isn't too serious, he might still get a shot.
All right, Tony Ventrella, while we're watching Scott Pierce handle the lines that have been tossed out to him, again from a fabulous shot from Chopper 7. Tony, what do you have?
Well, I'll tell you, let's bring Jimmy King over here. You talk about a frustrating day for the Lumar window film. First, the canopy keeps popping up. Then you got a little hull problem. That gets all glued back together. Then you get in the water. Then you get out of the boat. And you get back in the boat and out of the boat. For God's sakes, would you just get out there?
Seattle is possessed for me personally. You know, one of these days we're going to beat it, but it's not looking like this will be it. So we're going to take the Lumar, put it in a provisional. Maybe we'll get a little bit of luck out of this and throw it in the final.
So at this point, you just get some points and you hope for the best and call it a day and go on your next trip.
Pretty much. It's cut your losses and take what we can. Boat right now, keep it in one piece. And like I said, we haven't given up yet. We're going to try and get it in the show, but she's a long way from a trailer position. But you never know.
Now, the worst part of it is the fact that the boat's running pretty well, isn't it?
Yeah, in all actualities, it was a pretty decent race boat for us in race conditions. So very frustrating, but I mean, the guys from the Lumar team did an excellent job, and all the people at Lumar standing behind us, we'll get it one of these days.
All right, Jimmy, good luck in the provisional and next week as well.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Jimmy King. Yeah, it's been a long day for the yellow boat here. Because of all the problems I mentioned before. But, you know, you stick to it. That's boat racing, isn't Chip that used to say that? That's boat racing.
I never used that, actually.
Never?
I never used that.
No, I attribute that to someone, but I can't remember who it was.
I thought sure I'd heard it before. Well, let's hear what Scott Pierce has to say, because Bill Rocky has him, and it was a slow ride in just now to the pits. Bill?
Yeah, but I think we're okay. Scott, the boat's okay. You just shut it down because of the swimmer out there?
Yeah, we didn't really know where the guy was, and so they wanted me to get towed in rather than chance chopping him up when I started the thing up.
So what are they going to do? Give you 10 more minutes or so and then put him back in, or have they told you yet?
They haven't told me. We haven't had real good communication all day. I mean, I didn't know until I was sitting in the boat even what lane I was in. So hopefully they'll have a. Sounds like they got a countdown going right now, so hopefully we got the watch going and we'll get this thing going yet.
What's a provision like? What are you thinking about when you're out there in the provisional?
Well, you got to win it. You know, I mean, it's a last chance deal, and you got to win it to get the pleasure of being the trailer boat in the final and have the holy you know what kicked out of you. But we're going to try to win it.
I think your boat's going to knock us in the water here, Scott.
Yeah, we got to get it turned around here and get going again. But
we love you, KIRO 7 News. Oh, is that my name on there? Why, it is. Oh, thanks, guys. You're forever in my thoughts. That's the first time ever that's happened. I want to tell you what. Meantime, the kids are enjoying themselves on a big blow-up balloon there on the lake.
That's 3 places I'd rather be than here. I'd like to be on that thing.
My day has been made. Here is your lineup for the provisional heat with the vacationville.com boat. Mitch Evans at the controls in lane 1. The Oh Boy Alberto, lane 2. The Trend West in lane 3. That'll be Scotty Pierce. Silver Dollar Casino in lane 4. And then the Lumar, Jimmy King. As he said, they hope they've got everything glued down and battened down, all those hatches. Let's see if they can do it as, the Armada is positioned as they're watching the Rooster Tails, and you see the city in the background. Isn't this a great view from Chopper 7?
I hope they're friendly. Are those ours?
Every single one of them are.
Sure are, a lot of them.
And right now, as we talked about a couple moments ago, Michael, we are going to start talking about these boats that will be vying for the distinct honor of running, a couple of thousand feet behind the other guys. But let's start with the Vacationville boat and Mitch Evans.
You know, and if Mitch Evans could succeed here, it would be an honor for him to get into a final heat. Hasn't been in one all year. It's a tough row to hoe for this Allison-powered race boat. But these guys have come to be as competitive as possible given their limitations. And Mitch is a good starter, and that may be all it needs.
One of the better drivers probably in this provisional is Steve David. He's been around a long time, Chip. He knows how to move that boat through traffic.
He does. He won in Madison, which is where this boat's from, which probably made his year. But since then, it's just been nothing but uphill.
Jim Harvey and company. There's the Alberto boat now heading back out onto the water. And again, these boats came in. Now they're going back out. Scotty Pierce included. It looks like Scotty's got that thing restarted back out on the course, Mike.
It's been a mixed bag of luck for Scott today on Lake Washington, but I got to tell you, even though he grouses about the privilege of being pounded around, he'd take it if he could get it.
Jerry Hopp is at the controls of the Silver Dollar Casino. No, that's Ken Muscatel, actually, at Silver Dollar Casino, and he will be taking that boat back out. One more chance to make a final here.
Well, sometimes I think Ken Muscatel, who's a psychologist, should go to a psychologist because he has been running these preliminary heats in boats that don't handle well, and I don't know what keeps him coming back.
I'll tell you what does, driving those vintage boats around. That's one of the things that keeps him in this sport. I got to believe it. And finally, in the outside lane, there's your Miss Lumar boat and Jimmy King at the wheel.
And this is Jimmy's whole day right here. If he can pull it off and put Bill Worcester's boat into the final heat, that will be considered a victory by the U8 racing team. I think he's going to drive the devil out of this thing.
I'm not speaking here on my own, guys, when we say that Bill Worster is one of the genuine nice guys in this sport, isn't he? Been at it his entire adult life.
Yeah, and you would really like to see him get that one big break, soon, because he's given it everything he has. And, he came literally. He was a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman, and he's done great. He's a very gentle, sweet guy, and I hope he can do well.
He had a wonderful day out here in 1993 when George Woods drove this very same boat at the time in which it was called the Tide to a victory at Seafair, and he would love to do well today.
That was probably the biggest day in his life when he won the Seattle Seafair race with George Woods.
That sure was. That was a great victory.
I was down in the pits that day, and I remember that was maybe one of the biggest races George Woods ever won, too. It was a terrific day for George, and we were happy for all those guys.
This Provisional, I always hated this. I had to go out and drive in them because that was my job, but knowing that if everything worked out perfectly, it meant I got to just go get my brains beat out in the final.
Well, the other thing you don't want to do is go out and break something when you still have another race to go. I know you got a little break between now and San Diego, but you want to keep these boats in one piece, right?
Look at the front of these sponsons. Remember we talked about staying on plane? Mm-hmm. See the water that's almost coming right over the front of those sponsons. If he gets going any slower than that, he could be disqualified for going too slow.
Well, got a feeling in the Provisional, though, they might just back off of that a little bit and let these guys go.
These guys have suffered enough.
Yeah, they have suffered enough. That's true. I mean, this is the triage ward out there right now, and every one of them has had their indignity of the day, and so it's a chance for them to make a little pride and save a little face, and that's exactly what they're going to try to do. They're up a little bit early and a little bit slow into that upper corner. In fact, probably, Chip, we could ding them all if we wanted to right at this moment, but
especially
up a little.
You just went to a different shot, but yeah, you're right. They're all right on the verge of being disqualified, but I think they're going to let it go. On the other hand, the Provisional heat sometimes is a great heat. Mike, bring them down to the line.
There have been some wonderful Provisionals in years past. Okay, let's take a look at our lanes now and see what we've got. Here they come down to the start-finish line now, and the Vacationville, the red boat with the Allison inside. On the outside, the Lumar is the yellow guy. The purple boat, Silver Dollar. Trend West is black. Oh boy, Alberto, green and white. And look at this. Kenny Muscatel takes them across the line first in the Silver Dollar boat from the 4 lane as they go down into the first turn. Kenny's showing us some speed we haven't seen from him already today.
It's great to see it. Ken is an old friend, and I would love to see him win a heat, even if it's a Provisional. Oh, he went very wide there.
Yeah, he drove that boat nearly to Bellevue that time, and that's not going to help him. That gave away the lead to the U6, the Oh Boy Alberto, another popular boat here in the Seattle area. Art Alberto and Dorothy have been racing for years and years. The sausage boat is out front, but the chase is on out there on the outside lanes. A couple of boats sucking up there as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a runaway for Steve David, but on the other hand, I think Steve David has more experience than anybody out here, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him win this.
Scott Pierce working on him, though. He would like to put the pedal to the metal and chase him down. So is the Silver Dollar boat, but it's Pierce who's going to try to give chase to Steve David across the line. It is the Alberto first, Trend West second, and now look at Lumar moving to third place as they cross the line past Kenny Muscatel.
Yes, look at Scott. Scott is going to give these. Well, there's the Lumar who's just moving up. That Scott Pierce is fighting desperately to win this heat. And again, it's a Provisional, but Scott's giving it everything he's got.
And as you mentioned, a cagey driver will try to move Scott wide, and that's exactly what Steve Davis is doing as he moves him out. And Scott may decide no, then he decided against it. It looked like he might have gone inside, then decided against it. I think that's exactly what Steve was hoping to try.
Right, that cost him a lot of time. It cost Scott a lot of time by getting into that wake and then having to move out.
All right, Stephen David, Pompano Beach, Florida. Had been out of racing for a couple, 3 years, racing the offshores, but out of unlimited racing. Comes back, one of the most accomplished APBA drivers in history. And he comes down off the exit pin to finish lap number 2 in the Oh Boy Alberto.
I've got some good news for KIRO's friend Scott Pierce. Apparently, the Alberto has been assessed a lap penalty. I don't know exactly what for. Maybe somebody can run that down for us. But Scott Pierce is actually your leader, and you're looking at him right now.
And it looks like that might have been a chop in the first turn at the start. I didn't call it that way, but I did see a little tight lane action down there. We'll see if that is the case. In any event, the Alberto is running out front, but it may not be out front, as Chip mentioned. If that has been radioed to Scott and it's official, he'll lay back and not hurt the boat now because he's got one more opportunity to go out on the water.
Well, one thing we were just told now, the Silver Dollar jumped the gun to start the race, and it looked like Ken Muscatel got out there a long way. So we'll see if maybe that was, in fact, the penalty that was assessed. So we'll wait and see. Meantime, Silver Dollar continues to run and bounce around a little bit. The Vacationville's coming back to the pits already. Race is not over, but there is still a race out on the course.
A little bit of lesson in flags. Now you'll look, and the flag that will be displayed from the tower will not be the checker. It'll be the white, which means that the boat crossing right now, the Oh Boy Oberto, must go one more time around.
But look at second place. Look who's coming up on the inside.
That's Jimmy King coming up. It won't be enough. The flag goes down the checker for Scott Pierce of the Trend West, also for Jimmy King.
Poor Ken, Dr. Muscatel. He just had bad luck after bad luck. Now at Jump Gun, he's had mechanical failures, and not just this year, but for a lot of years. And I just really admire him being able to stick with it.
He loves it. He grew up right here in the Mount Baker area overlooking this race course, and it's in his blood.
You know, the other thing we need to find out exactly what we know that the Silver Dollar Casino jumped, but we don't know exactly why the Oberto was given an extra lap.
We don't, but here comes Jimmy King now. He has jumped as well. He got a white as well, so he's going after the Oberto right at the moment up in the upper corner. He did not get a checkered flag. Jimmy King also was over too soon, it appears, because he did not get the checker. Checker is out for the Oh Boy Oberto right now, and that's going to be the second place finisher right at the moment. And coming down in third place now, and the checker now flies for the Lumar.
So if I've got this right, Scott Pierce was the only boat that had no penalty at all.
That's correct. Looks like that's the situation, all right.
Wow.
And so because he did everything right, he now has an opportunity to get the bejesus bagged out.
Right.
Correct. Basically what it amounts to.
Congratulations, Scott. Now you get to go sit in a 55-gallon drum and go over Niagara Falls where somebody beats on it with a club.
Yeah, but you got to remember there's that name on the side, and that means one more shot on television.
That's exactly right.
In fact, I heard a funny story about that. One time Dale Earnhardt had been lapped, and there was a couple laps to go, but he's racing like heck for first place, or physically first place. He's being lapped, and this radio guy said, Dale, what are you doing? He said, came back on the radio after pause, I'm selling T-shirts.
That's exactly right. Pancho Carter in the Craftsman Truck Series ran for the Energetics Motorsports guys at one time and would actually start up front after a yellow flag, even though he was 3 and 4 and 5 laps down. But he always seemed to make the newspapers with all the leaders.
You know, and let's be honest about that. This is a business, and the sponsors that are on these boats want that exposure, and Scott knows that and did a great job for his sponsor, Trend West.
And I got to tell you guys, there has been more buzz by the business end of this thing because the competition has been better this season than any time in the past that I've heard.
No question. And, you know, maybe we've mentioned Gary Garbrecht too much, but I don't think you can. I mean, he is really, this racing has been like this all year long. It's been a great day today, and I think there's one man that you can make responsible for that, and that's Gary Garbrecht.
Bill Rocky is in the pits now. Bill?
Thanks, Steve. Scotty, we just talked to you a second ago. I guess it's good you won, and you said it's bad because you got to be the trailer.
Yeah, it's great for our sponsor, Trend West, that we made the final. It's, I've worked really hard today. I should reconsider my broadcasting duties. We're running better. That's the main thing. We're running better, and the old man's getting a heck of a workout, and I'm hanging in there pretty good.
How do you approach being the trailer? How do you approach being back there behind everybody in the final?
I got to wait for the guys in front of me to make mistakes and seize upon them. Just try to move the boat up as far as I can.
How is the boat running right now?
It's running real good. I could have run harder there, but I knew Steve had been penalized, so I didn't take any chances.
All right, good luck. Thanks. All right, Steve, it's back up to you.
All right, Bill Rocky, time once again to check that Trend West boat over now as it gets put back on the trailer. Meantime, all the guys in the final, all these other boats, they've had lots of time to look at the boat, fine-tune them, tweak them, and for the drivers to just sit and think what they have to do, Chip. What are you thinking at this point?
It's the hardest part of racing. You know, once I'm in the boat, I was fine. But this time, right now, leading up to the final was the hardest part of racing. You know, also on that, speaking of time, the Trend West guys have very little time. Here's the start. There's Ken Muscatel. He's over. It looks like there was a bunch of them over. We don't know exactly when the clock closed. There's the clock. But looks like a lot of guys over. But, you know, the Trend West guys are going to have very little time. They're going to basically hope that the battery's charged. They have no time to change anything and throw the thing back in. And Scott's not going to get a chance to even catch his breath.
Now here we have a final coming up. Last week we had the boat that you saw just a moment ago, the bright orange Elam, in a position to win, and Nate took himself out of the situation by an error there in the score-up period of time, even with the signed lanes. Now we're going to have the penny scramble out there. We're all going to go out and charge for lanes, and we're going to be probably real tight, Chip, I would believe, on enforcing that off-the-plane rule this time, where we might have been a little loose on it up until now.
Wouldn't be surprised me. There's a guy called the driver's driver's rep, and he's walking around the pits, and he's the conduit between the officials and the drivers.
Take a look at the front of the sponson, right sponson on the Lumar. It's all delaminating at the present time as they brought it back in.
That boat is basically delaminating as it sits on the trailer. It's a very old boat. It's been through a lot, and they've just
been upside down, what, 7 times? Right. I think Scott did most of them.
We're going to go back, I think, and take a look at that start and see if we can see exactly who is all over. Okay, there's one.
There's one.
Second. So it looks
Muscatel.
like Muscatel must be the only. Now, if we can just go a couple frames farther and see if anybody else was over, because we know other guys were. There's still one second.
Oh, it's at 0 there.
So it looks like it must have been a driving infraction, because it looks like only one guy over. But if you can back that up 1 second again, well, what that showed is, and that's not even a fast boat. Look how far that boat traveled in 1 second.
Yeah.
And it really gives you an appreciation for the speed.
I think
slow motion again.
I think you find an infraction in the first corner, though, as the boats go in. Look at that. There's 30 feet. There's 60 feet. He's out of the picture.
See, I think that's a great job on the camera, guys, because I think that's the best example of speed that I've ever seen. That look how far it travels.
I wonder if we could run ahead to the first turn charge there, because we might see what happened to the 6th boat, to the Oh Boy Oberto, because that, I think, is where it happens. Here you go. You see the Oh Boy Oberto is in lane number 2. Now watch as he comes down on that yellow buoy right where Chip has marked it. I don't think there's a lane there. That's a little too tight.
Yep. That guy right there has nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Now he goes back out. You see what happened?
And as he comes back out, watch what he does now.
Then he went back out.
Yeah.
And that's I think that was Vacationville, was it not inside? And I think that probably is why Mitch Evans, he was slowed down, swamped, started it back up, and came back to the pit, said, enough of this, I've been washed down.
Exactly.
That wasn't intentional, but there is a technique about doing that. You're not cutting a guy off, but just going into his lane for a very short period of time, then getting right back out of it, because that's going to mess him up.
It's like holding on the offensive line. You learn how to do it. It's illegal, but you learn how to do it. Here are the unofficial results of the Provisional here at the General Motors Cup. Trent West and Scotty Pierce, only one without an infraction, takes it, and he goes into the final now as the trailer. There's Oh Boy Oberto, Lumar, Silver Dollar Casino, and Vacationville.com. That's your Provisional heat. Now, we're ready. We're set. We're going to the final of the General Motors Cup. We hope you're staying with us.
This portion of the GM Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Diamond Lil's Card Casino in Renton off Rainier Avenue, across from Freddy's Club Casino.
And we're back along the shores of Lake Washington. Steve Rabel with Chip Hanauer, Mike Fitzsimmons on the start-finish tower, and, of course, our trio of intrepid reporters in the pits getting the stories. And the story going on in the pits right now, a lot of boats looking for a lot of speed to win the General Motors Cup at Seafair. Final heat of the day is coming up here pretty soon. We're awaiting the award presentation to Scotty Pierce down on the stage in front of us. Scott is not here yet, so when he does get here, we'll have that awards presentation. Meantime, the air show continues as well. So there's still lots to do as we just go past 4 o'clock in the afternoon here. You're looking up to the sky, and what you're seeing now, well, you're looking at your screen actually, but as we look up in the sky, we're seeing a drop. There are a number of military personnel being dropped from parachutes. They are slowly dropping, sailing down into the lake, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a couple of minutes. It's a rescue, an air and sea rescue operation. We'll be getting to that in a moment. As a matter of fact, we might as well just get right to it since we have a couple of minutes. We're going to have to take a break here as well, but as we see these service members dropping out of the sky on parachutes, they're going to land in just a terrific position. Is this Sergeant Thompson who's right here with us?
Yeah, it is.
It is. How are you, sir? Very nice to see you. I'm sorry we hadn't had a chance to meet before, but we're live on the air. So give us a kind of an encapsulated description of what we're seeing and what's going to happen with this demonstration for Seafair today.
Okay, well, what just happened is a 10-man special tactics team just jumped out of that C-17 there, and they're going to land in the water. Usually we push a boat out, but today the boat's pre-positioned. They're going to land on the water, they're going to get in the boat, and they're going to go to shore and effect a rescue on the shore.
So what we understand is there is actually a member of your team who is hidden on shore somewhere right now, and these commandos, for lack of a better term, are going to drop in the water, get out of the water, and then go find your person and rescue him, bring him back to the boat.
That's correct, and then they're going to go back out in the water, and a UH-60 helicopter is going to come in, and they're going to do a rope ladder exertion, and then they're going to leave the area.
Wow. Well, it's always a terrific demonstration. Meantime, we'll get back to the demonstration in a moment. Let's go to the presentation stage now for the presentation of the Provisional Heat to Scotty Pierce.
Hi, I'm Jason Jakovich, and on behalf of GMC and General Motors, I'd like to congratulate Scott Pierce and the entire Trend West race team, winners of the Provisional Heat. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jason, very, very much. Well, this is great for our sponsor, Trend West. In honor of GM, we'll take off the Trend West, put on the GM cap, and we're just honored to be here. We've had a tough week. Our old boat just didn't want to run all week long, but we're starting to get a lot better, and thanks to Jim Harvey, Tom Anderson, my whole crew, and putting up with the old man yelling at him, saying, come on, let's get this old goer going. So I'll do what I can from the back, and we'll see what happens.
The always gracious Scott Pierce, maybe not the always well-fitting GM hat, but still.
Maybe it's his head. I don't know.
Well, it could be. Meantime, here is the demonstration as it continues. Take a look at this. Look at how close. And, Sergeant, if you'd continue the commentary for us, look at how close one of your team members just dropped in right next to that Zodiac that's out there in the water.
Yeah, we do a lot of training. Hopefully all of them will land that close. With one of those parachutes, a ram air parachute, we can get pretty close to the boat, which is that's one of the main advantages for that parachute.
This is not something that's just a demonstration for an air show like this. This is something that you train for because you would utilize an operation like this, say, in Far East or anywhere, correct?
Correct. That's something we train for all the day, or all the time, and sometimes we might go with the Navy or the Army, but today we're doing it on our own.
I noticed they have swim fins on. Now, when they hit the water without all that surface area, is it easy to break an ankle or something, or even knock the fin off?
No, it's they land pretty soft. You can flare that parachute. You can land it on a standstill on the ground, so it's no problem in the water.
Are these the same military personnel that we might see, and forgive me, but for the sports analogy here, but at a football stadium, who will come dropping in and will land on the 50-yard line and just amaze us all prior to the national anthem?
Yes, it is. We actually have a special tactics and rescue specialist team. They're called the Stars, and they perform at all kinds of races, Indianapolis 500, and they do football games and baseball games.
Is there an incident that you can talk about, the last incident that maybe us in the public knew that this type of operation went on for real?
Well, there's,
nothing you can tell us, huh?
Not off the top of my head right now. I can't think of any. We're pretty much involved in every major contingency that the U.S. military does.
And where are you guys based?
We're based here at McChord Air Force Base.
Oh, local guys.
Does this become a difficult situation here as those parachutes begin to fill with water?
Sometimes. If you don't get it off quick enough, it can definitely sink you. But we have LPUs. They're like a little life preserver, float the parachute. Normally, you can see that we would just let the parachutes go. We'd sink them. But we can't do that, so we're go ahead and have a boat crew pick them up.
So now, as it looks like all of your team members are down and in the water, so now I see, I'm having to describe this to our director who can't see as much as I can see out here, but I see a flare in the water over to about our 3 o'clock position. There it is. Now, this signals what?
Well, what we're doing right here is we're simulating a downed pilot, like an F-16 pilot who had to eject. He's in the water now, and a UH-60 is going to come in. And one pararescueman is going to jump out of the water, and then they're going to hoist using a winch that's inside the helicopter back into the aircraft. It's just one of the other capabilities that we have.
Chip, you asked a moment ago whether an operation like this, can you think of an operation where this actually happened? Had that surveillance plane landed in the water in China instead of being able to get to Hainan Island, you might very well, your folks might very well have had an operation like this trying to rescue those folks.
That's correct. We were stationed all over the world, and we're ready to go pretty much anytime, anywhere.
All right, we hear the chopper coming into range now. There is the downed pilot with the flare going.
What you're going to see is the UH-60 is going to slow down about 10 knots, and he's going to be anywhere from 10 to 20 feet. Pararescueman is going to jump out of the UH-60. Maybe next pass.
Now, at some point, the copter is actually stopped, or will the copter still be moving a little bit when they grab that guy in first speed?
Usually, we call it a low and slow, so they're going about 10 knots and about 10 feet, but sometimes, yeah, they'll come all the way to a stop.
I'll bet you that's quite a jerk, though, at 10 knots when you grab a hold of that thing.
That is. Oh, they're not, no, I'm sorry, when they cast in.
Okay.
When they come back out, no, they're going to be at a hover.
They're dead stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're watching the chopper now move around into position. This is fascinating, folks. Bear with us because we're having just a great time watching this, and these skilled members of the armed services. There's the downed pilot looking for rescue. Would this also be done? Would your people do this kind of rescue operation in a civilian setting for, say, a civilian pilot down in the water? Sure, they do. They don't only do military operations. They also rescue people stranded on, say, Mount Rainier or fishing boats.
Is that a different group that would do this in the mountains versus what we're seeing here in the water? Are they two separate disciplines? Or?
Same group.
Same group. So you got to be kind of a jack of all trades.
Yes, you do. They're very well. They do very well.
You talk about a little prop wash coming off of that chopper there, blowing the water around. Now there goes your team member into the water. This is the rescue person, correct?
That's the pararescueman. He's going to swim over to him. He's going to make sure he's all right. You know, sometimes he might be injured. These guys are paramedics as well.
He's telling him now that he's on a close-up on television, so smile.
How much training to get to this level?
About 2 years.
2 years. And where is the training for this stuff done?
The training's done all over the United States. We start in Texas, and then we go to Key West, Florida, to do dive training. We do jump training down in Yuma, Arizona.
You're not the guys they throw out in the jungle with no food and no utensils and then leave you out there for a month, are you?
I hope not.
Oh, good.
Meantime, it looks as though the rest of those team members now have gotten into the Zodiac, or a number of them. They're on the move as the pararescue member of the team has the pilot in control.
Big difference if the person being rescued is conscious or unconscious?
Yeah, it is. That's in this case they would drop a different device in order to get the patient out of the water. In this case, I think they're just going to drop it's 2 rings and they just slide their body through it. They can drop like a litter down. Right. They can drop all sorts of different devices.
But they really don't know until the diver gets in there what you got, right?
That's why the helicopter departs, and then we have a series of hand and arm signals that'll tell the people in the aircraft what device to send down.
Is the swimmer in radio contact to the helicopter after he gets wet?
Just hand and arm signals. They come over and they'll give different signals.
There they are right there. What's that signal right there mean?
That signal send down the cable.
Now, would it be a different arm signal if it was for the litter?
Yes, it would. It'd be like a motion
kind of shape of a litter.
Yeah.
You've been watching a lot of Larry King, haven't you? You ask a lot of great questions. No, the military stuff fascinates me. You know, just the Coast Guard, the Army, I think it's just such interesting stuff.
And we should probably point out as well that this is a major portion of seafair, not just this air show. Remember, the fleet is in all week, so terrific tours of the ships down on down on the Seattle waterfront. Meantime, this is not an easy operation.
No, look at that.
Get strapped up and get pulled aboard this helicopter.
That water hitting your face has got to feel like a sandblast machine.
It does. It really does. He's giving the up signal there with the thumbs up, and the flight engineer should...
You get exfoliated very quickly with the helicopter.
That's a pretty good word for you, Jay. Congratulations. Well, we've gotten the up signal a couple of times, but they have yet to begin the hoist.
You know, we get exposed because of Mount Rainier and Mount Hood and Mount Baker. We get exposed to this more than maybe people in the Midwest and stuff because it's not unheard of around here to see this going on.
Yeah, they are very busy.
There was a problem on Mount Baker. A helicopter left from Bellingham. Are you aware of that one? I guess the guy was KIRO because he went higher than he was really supposed to go with the bird. How high can this thing go?
The helicopter?
Yes.
I think up about 10,000 feet.
10,000 feet.
And here we go now. So they're now both going to go, both being hoisted up at the same time.
How many crewmen are in the helicopter in this function?
There's the pilot, the co-pilot, then there's a flight engineer, and usually one other personnel, so approximately 4 to 5, I'd say.
What kind of equipment is on board the helicopter to perform triage if necessary?
They have full med kits. They can do IVs. They can do... they're paramedics. They can pretty much do anything that like an ambulance would have.
Now, there's a big snout. If we can pull back a little bit on the front of the helicopter, there's a big snout sticking out ahead of it. What is this right
That's here? A refueling boom. They can get refueled from C-130s or other helicopters.
Without interfering with the rotor?
Yeah, during flight.
How far away is that plane from the rotor?
50, 60 feet. I'm not exactly sure. They lower a boom back and...
So the boom, like from a KC-135 or someone hang down underneath it, huh?
Correct.
Did you see the movie? What was the movie just out? The Perfect Storm.
Yeah.
They had a scene in that movie trying to refuel one of those choppers in the middle of the perfect storm.
That's right.
Almost in fact, it was an impossibility, and the chopper ended up having to ditch.
That's the same aircraft that was in the movie.
Now,
and
these guys here in the Zodiac look like they're looking for Hanover.
They're angry, aren't they?
And they are coming. Now, this is the second part of the operation, right?
Okay, these are the combat controllers. What they're doing is they're going to storm the beach there, set up some security, and pick up another personnel who's on the beach.
Now, that'd be you, Hanover.
Actually, keep your eye on this because we're going to follow them on shore. I guarantee you that the folks along on the shoreline, and that is right where the bleachers are and the rest, they don't know that this operation is commencing, and they don't know that there is one of these team members who is presumably a downed pilot who is sort of hidden in the trees back here behind. So watch these guys as they come on shore.
Boy, I hope they don't get the wrong guy. That would ruin somebody's whole seafare.
Well, it might. I think they know who it is they're going after, however, so they won't pull our Amy Clancy or our Kevin McCarty off the beach.
There they go. Now, this would be probably at nighttime.
At nighttime, and of course they'd have weapons, and there'd be a lot more.
So at nighttime, if you're going to a place you've never been before, there may be coral. How do you know where to go in? How do you know where GPS or something? Or?
GPS position. Also, we have night vision goggles that helps us see at night, and hopefully we'll have comms with the guy on the shore, so he can lead us into his position when we get closer.
There they are. They're looking for the lucky winner.
There were a few volunteers there for a moment, but looks like they passed up on that.
Ah, they're getting a hand. That's good. I think they're clapping because they went by them.
Maybe they don't know where he is. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Get him the heck out of there.
He's ducking. See, he's...
And there is also a narrator of the show going on for the folks in the stands now, explaining that this is the downed flyer that has been located by the rescue team, and now he'll be taken back to the Zodiac. And now maybe the most, as I remember, isn't there quite a finale to this portion of the program, Sergeant?
Well, you'll see the helicopter come back over, and 2 or 3 of the guys will do a rope ladder extract out, which is pretty tough to do.
Now, they're obviously, these guys may be in an operation where they hit the beach, but they might have to go inland 10, 15 miles, right, to get where they're going.
Oh, very well. They might be on the beach for a couple days.
Really? How much provisions, if they're going to find a guy, they don't know where he is, how much provisions, how long could they stay out there?
It's all mission dependent, really. You can sustain yourself for a couple weeks with just a rucksack and what you're carrying on your body.
Do they have to maintain radio silence when they're down?
Well, usually they're just talking to someone back behind the lines, and that person, a general, is telling them what to do. And
actually, you could survive for a couple of weeks with a rucksack. I've got to have a hot shower.
Hey, roughing it for me is a Weston. I don't know about you guys.
Anything under 4 seasons, that's what we're roughing it. How old are these guys typically?
Anywhere from 20 to really 40. We have guys that are still 40 that are still working.
And Steve, all in terrific, terrific. And all in terrific shape, obviously, to do these kinds of operations.
Yeah, we have pretty tough physical standards, so we have to keep up.
For example, a rescue swimmer, how far does he have to demonstrate that he can swim?
Well, it takes about a 6-week school of constant swimming every day to really demonstrate, to prove yourself before you get into the career field. And then we have tests periodically where we swim about 1.5 miles.
Wow.
Well, Sergeant Luke Thompson has been joining us here. I don't know if we're going to actually get the extraction done now because we're starting to get ourselves in position for the final of the General Motors Cup here at Seafair, but suffice it to say, we'll continue to watch along with the rest of the fans here. Sergeant, we appreciate your help. Thank you very much for explaining this, and congratulations and thanks for the good work that you men and women of the service do for all of us.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
We'll continue with more with Larry King here joining me on the tower and all his great questions and more of the GM Cup at Seafair. The finals are coming up.